Hello and welcome back to Casual Gastronomy.
Today we're making gnocchi. Felt like it was really fitting to make this because the weather is getting cooler, finally, and we feel like gnocchi is a really nice, comforting winter dish. And we were inspired by this really good pesto gnocchi that we had at Monteverde in Chicago. Also, fun fact about gnocchi, it is not actually a pasta, it's considered a dumpling.
What?
I know, who knew? Also, second fun fact, this dish, if you forego the cheese and the eggs, it's considered vegan. So anyone can eat this gnocchi dish.
Amazing. Gnocchi really is a universal food.
It's amazing.
Before we get started, really quickly, we both just want to say thank you because we have experienced a surge in momentum on our channel this past week. We have 9 new subscribers and YouTube is starting to recommend our videos in the sidebar for people, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
We definitely want to keep this momentum going, and we've decided that we want to try and reach 250 subscribers by the end of this year.
Yep.
A quarter of 1,000.
We can do it.
It's a little bit of a challenge, but you guys can help us by liking this video, sending it to people who haven't seen it yet so that they can subscribe. And if we reach our 250 subscriber goal, we will post a survey on Instagram and we will let you guys decide which restaurant we should go to next in Chicago to eat at and review for you. Without further ado, let's get started.
We're going to start by making our gnocchi from scratch. For this, we will begin by washing 4 russet potatoes and poking them with a fork to create little vents for steam to escape while they cook.
On one of the videos I watched for this recipe, I saw a guy cover the outside of the potato in salt, but I personally think that very little of that salt would actually make it to the inside of the potato. I think you're better off just adding a little salt in when you mix the dough.
Now, place the potatoes on the middle rack of a 375-degree oven for about an hour and a half or until a knife can slide into them with barely any resistance. While our potatoes are in the oven, we can get started on our pesto sauce. We'll start by toasting our pine nuts. For this, place about 1/3 cup into a skillet over medium heat. Make sure to stir them regularly just until they begin to take on color and they become fragrant. Next, you'll want to remove the leaves from 3 to 4 bunches of basil. Then, into a food processor, add 1/3 cup of your toasted pine nuts, 2 ounces of parmigiano, and 2 to 3 crushed garlic cloves. Give your processor a few pulses until the cheese and pine nuts are broken down. Then, add in the basil and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Then pop the lid on and slowly drizzle in 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil with the processor running. Once it all comes together, remove it to a bowl, drizzle a little more olive oil over the top to keep it from browning, and store it in the fridge while we finish our gnocchi.
Now, back to the gnocchi. Once you pull your potatoes out of the oven, let them rest for 5 minutes just so that they can cool down a little bit. Then, carefully remove the skin from the potato using a paring knife. If the potatoes are too hot, you can just use a kitchen towel in your non-dominant hand so that it doesn't burn you. This process is difficult and a little clunky, but it's important to remove the skin while they're still hot so that the steam can escape from the potato. When it comes to gnocchi, the less moisture that they have, the more tender they'll turn out. After removing the skin, let them cool for another 20 to 30 minutes. Now it's time to mash the potatoes. If you have a potato ricer, that would be ideal, but we decided to try out using a cheese grater as an alternative since we don't have a ricer yet. Once your potatoes are all processed, spread them out evenly on a tray. Weigh your potatoes, then pour out 1 beaten egg yolk for every 500 grams of potato. For simplicity, we just measured out 500 grams of our potatoes. Now, we're going to sift 150 grams of flour over the potatoes and about 1 teaspoon of salt. Then, we'll incorporate it using this sort of chopping and folding technique. The more you knead your dough, the chewier your finished gnocchi will be. I like them tender, but I also like a little bit of a bite to them, so I kneaded the dough for about a minute. Once your dough reaches the consistency that you want, roll it into a little log like this and cut it into 4 equal pieces. Then, on a lightly floured work surface, roll each one of those pieces into a snake a little bit wider than the width of your thumb. Now, cut that snake into equal pieces about 1/3 to 1/2 inch in length. Now it's time to give the gnocchi those classic ridges which will hold onto our pesto sauce. There is a real tool for this that looks like a little wooden paddle with some ridges on it, but we decided that it would be easier for everyone to follow along if we just use the fork method. Start by rolling each piece into a ball, then take one of your gnocchi and gently roll it across a fork with your thumb. This should create some ridges in the front and a little dimple in the back. This makes the gnocchi look beautiful, but it also allows more sauce to cling onto it, which is especially important for delicate sauces.
Now it's time to bring this dish together. To start, bring a large pot of water with a good pinch of kosher salt up to a boil. On the other side of the cooktop, heat a skillet over low heat. Add your gnocchis into the boiling water and let them cook until they begin to float. As soon as your gnocchi begin to float, remove them from the boiling water and add them into the skillet with 1/4 cup of the water that you cooked them in.
Then, add in 2 tablespoons of butter and stir until the mixture thickens and the butter clings to the gnocchi. Then, turn the heat off and add in a generous scoop of our pesto. Stir this until everything comes together, and then it's time to plate.
We started by adding a layer of our pesto gnocchi. Then we added in a few dollops of fresh ricotta cheese. Then we sprinkled on our reserved toasted pine nuts. Then we grated on a little fresh black pepper. Then we added a few shavings of Pecorino Romano. Then, finally, we added a few baby basil leaves for garnish.
So here we are. We finished our pesto gnocchetti with ricotta and Pecorino Romano in the style of Monteverde. I wish I could actually roll my R's. I'm pretty happy with this. It looks beautiful. The garlicky aroma from the pesto is driving me insane over here.
The green color is...
Chef's kiss. All right, let's just dive in and taste it, and then we can go into the details of why it tastes, how it tastes, and what could be improved, and what could never possibly be improved because it's too perfect. I'm taking a little baby basil leaf from the center.
Okay.
I got everything on here. I got my pine nut, my ricotta. Okay. Wait a second. Hold on, I need to verify something. Be patient with us. All right, cut. We're done. What do you think?
I really like the flavor of the pesto and the basil. It's just like, I just love basil so much.
And it's so garlicky. Wow. Garlicky too. The garlic, the basil, the toasty pine nuts, the creamy, cool ricotta with those hot, hearty gnocchi. Now, the thing I was concerned about, the texture of the gnocchi. We are always 75% honest with you, and I will not lie, we were very afraid for the gnocchi because, am I even saying that right? Is it gnocchi or gnocchi? I feel like it's gnocchi.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let us know in the comments. Just type out the word gnocchi and tell us that's how you pronounce it. We think we undercooked the potatoes and they were not mashing the way we wanted them to, and the dough was not looking right, and I needed it extra to compensate for this bad dough. But it somehow came together in the end, and they looked right.
Yeah.
And when I ate it just now, let me backtrack a bit. I did a couple test gnocchi earlier, and I ate them, and they had a little bit of raw potato flavor, and the texture was a little weird. It was a little broken up. It wasn't like one cohesive thing. But just now,
Yeah.
It was better.
It's definitely better with the pesto because you don't taste the raw potato as much, but like you can still feel it, like the texture is maybe just slightly off.
It was gummy.
A little bit.
For sure. It wasn't the kind of like bouncy chewiness that I would prefer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is our first time making gnocchi. We're not gonna lie, we didn't test this recipe at all. It's all theoretical, and we just went into it. So, if you have more time, please make sure to cook your potatoes all the way through. Hour and a half, I'm gonna say it. You wanna cook it hour and a half at 375. Peel them, make sure all that steam gets out. Really rice them and make sure they're finally incorporated with the flour. And your gnocchi will be 10 times better than even ours. Even the casual gastronomy gnocchi.
Yeah, we believe in you.
That's our promise to you.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, the rest of this is so easy. You literally just throw a bunch of stuff in a blender or a food processor, blend it up, you boil the gnocchi, you put it in the pan with the pasta water, well, the dumpling water, and the butter and the pesto, and then you just top it with your shaved pecorino and your ricotta and the toasted pine nuts. It's a very easy meal.
Yeah, it is.
But it looks so fancy.
It does. Makes you feel fancy too.
But it kind of is overall just making me want to go back to Monteverde even more.
Yeah, same.
Especially since during this time we need to support our local restaurants the best that we can. Thanks for watching. That was gnocchi with pesto sauce, ricotta, and toasted pine nuts. We hope that you enjoyed the episode. We hope that we've earned your like and your subscribe. And we will see you next time for a special Thanksgiving episode where we teach you how to make dinner for one on Thanksgiving. Peace.